In this tutorial, I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process to a low skin fade, inspired by modern pop culture in LA. To start with, I'm going to thoroughly spray down my model's hair. Alternatively, this can be done at the basin with shampoo and conditioner. It's important for me to locate the crown and its natural growth pattern. This is one of the fixed factors. Locating the crown and its direction will influence the whole haircut and help me make better decisions. As you can see here, I'm separating the front from back, using the crown as a guide to keep my sectioning organic. Next up, I'm going to use the crown and the front hairline as guides and join these 2 points together, creating a deep V section throughout the top. These 2 sections are going to be disconnected. I've chosen to create a deep V section to retain enough length towards the front hairlines, and then repeat this on the other side. Once I'm happy with my initial sectioning, I'm going to secure away the top section with a clip. Here's the section pattern. I'm going to start above the ear because I want to retain density throughout the front hairline and towards the occipital bone. So to me, starting above the ear is the safest place to start. My technique of choice here is graduation. This means that the hair goes from shorter to longer as I work up the head. I'm using diagonal forward sections because I want this haircut to live towards the face. I'm taking sections no wider than the width of my comb and moving towards the front hairlines. Once I reach the front hairlines, I'm going to over-direct the very last section back towards me to retain that last little bit of density towards the front hairline. Repeat this on the other side. Once again, as I approach these last sections towards the front, I'm making sure that I over-direct them back towards me, as this will retain more density throughout the front hairline. Body position will play a massive role here in controlling my horizontal shape. Throughout the crown, I want to retain as much density as possible, so I'm going to be using over-direction to create the heaviest graduation I can possibly build. The vertical shape of these sections will be triangular. I'm going to repeat this process until I meet the middle of the head. So you can see the density that this technique has created. Once I'm happy with the perimeter edges, I'm going to release the top section and set my initial guideline. I'm doing this by taking a section no wider than the width of my comb through the center of the head. This will act as a guide for the length for this whole section throughout the top of the head. I'm using a point cutting technique here to add a disheveled finish to the edges to keep density in the hair, so I'm not going to be using any weight reduction techniques at all. Moving on now, I'm going to use a small piece of my first section as a guide for the second section, and then I'm going to create my new section. Each new section is going to be over-directed towards this center section. This will naturally create a triangular shape from the center point of the head to the outside of the head, leaving more weight and length towards the outside corners. The shape of this zone is triangular vertically, shorter at the crown, longer towards the front, and it's also triangular horizontally from the center point of the head to the contour of the head on either side. I'm going to repeat this process on the other side. My body mechanics here are staying the same while cutting both sides. This is because I want to reduce as many variables as possible. I started cutting the other side from front to back, so I want to cut this side from front to back. Once I'm happy with the length on the top, I'm going to adjust the fringe, and I want to create a concave shape within the fringe. I'm going to start by taking a small section of hair through the center and use my razor to create a disheveled edge. I'm using a shallow movement with the razor here, and I'm holding the blade at a slightly steeper angle than normal. Now I'm going to over direct both sides of the fringe towards the center and cut along the edge to create a concave shape. This creates a disheveled edge while simultaneously retaining density throughout the mid-lengths. Moving on to the styling now, I'm using a small amount of matte finish paste. I'm going to distribute this product throughout the entirety of the top. Then I'm going to comb the hair with a wide tooth comb to further distribute the product and encourage the cuticles to lay in the correct direction. I'm going to use some movement grips here to create some added movement and focal points throughout the front of the haircut. This is a great way to accentuate a haircut without losing control of the overall style. Once I'm happy with my movement grip placement, I'm going to start by diffusing the hair with a medium speed and a medium heat. This allows me to style the hair in a slow and controlled fashion. Next, I'm going to bring the top back to life with the diffuser using rotary movements. This creates purposeful pockets of texture throughout this zone. I'm going to switch now to my concentrator nozzle on the supersonic and a large paddle brush. This is going to help to compact down the sides and give them plenty of direction. I want this haircut to be worn towards the face, so I'm going to encourage the hair to move in that direction. Moving on to the clipper work now, I'm choosing to start with a number 3 because I want to retain as much density as possible throughout the contour of the head, and I'm going to start with the lever open. Next up, I'm going to close the lever and continue my clipper work. Throughout the crown here, I'm using a number 3 and clippering with the grain. This ensures I don't destroy the shape and retain density internally before I flip the clipper over and clipper against the grain. Before I move on to any more parts of the fade, I'm going to remove the movement grips in the front of the hair. I want to create a low fade here, but as you can see, there's not a lot of space between the contour of the head and the hairline. So even when I measure 2 fingers depth, this will still create a guideline that makes the fade look like a low fade. This guideline is going to hug over the ear and dip down in towards the nape. I'm using my Supra ZR here to create my initial zero line. I'm using the mastoid bone as a point of reference throughout the nape. Moving on to my foil shaver now, I'm tapping down for ease of use and comfort for the client before moving back up. You'll notice that I'm leaving a few follicles here beneath my zero line. This is for ease of blending later on throughout the haircut. Remember, the fade starts here, not after the skin line. One of the key points to getting a really strong outline on a low fade is to put in your temple curves first. Towards the front of the head, I'm using quite a lot of the blade on the trimmer to create a really sharp line. As I move into the temple curve, I start to use the end few teeth to etch out my line. My first guard of choice is a number 1 with the lever closed. For this fade, I'm going to be fading upwards, so this means it's an ascending fade. I'm going to lightly clear about an inch of space with the number 1. Next, I'm going to take the number 1 guard off and open up the lever. We like to look at a fade as a spread of color, not necessarily numbers and guards. From here, I'm going to slowly work my way down and close the lever as I move towards the skin line. My next guard of choice is a 1.5 guard, and I'm going to open the lever. This essentially acts like a number 2. I'm going to lightly flick this in underneath the number 3. I'm always being mindful here not to clipper past my previous guide. Once I'm happy with the 1.5 guard open, I'm going to close the lever to further refine this panel. And lastly, I'm going to scissor over comb for a smooth, soft transition. If there are any dark spots, I can also pick fade with my scissors. Next, I'm going to focus on the panel through the mastoid bone, flowing into the nape. The technique is exactly the same. To easily remove the zero line, remember this golden rule. Whatever tool you use to put the zero line in with is the tool that is going to get the zero line out. I'm going to continue my method until this panel is finished. One key difference in the back here is you can see I'm refining with the number 1 guard. I'm starting with the lever open and gradually closing until I get a nice smooth transition of color. Following on from the previous sections, I'm going to refine the contour of the head with scissor over comb. I'm using the same fading process for all panels of the head. I'm repeating this now on the other side. Once I'm happy with how both of the side panels are looking, all I need to do now is connect these two panels together through the center. The beauty of working this way is that I have guides from the previous panels. This takes out a lot of the guesswork when trying to balance out the color spread. For this back panel, I'm going to trust my process and use the exact same technique as I used before. Coming into the final stages of refinery now, I'm using my texturizing scissors to further soften the color spread. Moving on to the final stages of the cut now, I'm going to refine and sharpen up the temple curves with a razor blade. As you can see, my thumb acts as an anchor point at all times to keep the skin nice and tight. I'm using a texture powder here to further refine and enhance the finishing and the styling of this haircut. I'm pushing the product into the hair and using my fingertips to loosen up this panel and creating purposeful pockets and gaps to further enhance the texture. So there we have it, a step-by-step process to a soft, low skin fade inspired by modern pop culture in LA.